How much did RCA influence the growth of Camden?
The growth of Camden?
Yes.
I don't think, no, I never lived in the city of Camden when I worked, and most of the time I didn't work in RCA plants at Camden. I finished up there from 83 to 92, 1983 to 92. I was in Camden. And some before, but other times I was all over the world or in places that Service Company had in Cherry Hill, Riverton, and other places. But I was aware of Camden, and you know, everybody at RCA, I guess, likes Camden. They certainly like the Nipper window. Remember the Nipper window in 17 building, which is now the Victor Lofts, where Marty lives. The big, I think, 14 feet diameter stained glass window, a Nipper, the dog.
Yeah,
I think
dog.
everybody in RCA always had a friend in Nipper. Of course, that was Victor. He became RCA when RCA bought Victor Talking Machine Company.
Yeah.
And that was one of the first buildings, 17 building, that RCA built in Camden. And they put up that tower. Sometime, I think in the 60s, was it, or even in the 50s, David Sarnoff, who actually started, Brigadier General David Sarnoff, who really started RCA. At one time in the early 50s, said before he retired, which I think finally came along in the later 60s, he gave the RCA employees a list of things you wanted to do. One was to get a TV picture tube that it would be like a picture hanging on the wall. We didn't get that before he retired and when he died, but they have now. You can see the picture of your TV set on a thing looking just like a picture in a picture frame on the wall, you know, using LCDs and plasma. So that was one of the things that the general asked us to try to do in 15 or 20 years, I think. They got done. And I don't think RCA can take the credit for all that, but it has been done.
And how long did you work at RCA?
Well, I started in September 1950
Yes.
and retired from GE in March of 1992. So it's like a 42-year span. Like I said, I was away 2 or 3 times when I was laid off and worked at other companies,
Yes.
like Hamilton Santa that I mentioned.
And why did you leave RCA?
Normal retirement is 65, and I wanted to work longer, primarily because I saw how my monthly payments from Social Security were increasing if I worked longer. So I wanted to work longer. I liked it. And if I could keep getting paid in RCA, I wanted to work longer. I was thinking about going to 70, but layoffs came along when I was 67. So they made it, you know, easy for me to retire. They gave me some benefits. And so I retired at 67. Did that answer that question?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Can you describe how you felt when RCA closed?
This should be in 1986, you're speaking of, when GE, I wasn't there when it closed, or if it did, because I left while it was still GE. A year later, GE sold to Martin Marietta. Another year or so, became Lockheed Martin, I believe. The Camden people who were working, I was in 13 building when I retired in 92. All those people got jobs at L3 Communications, right across the street in 17 building, across from the aquarium in Camden. So I didn't really have a closing. I retired.
Yeah, so.
And how did I feel? Well, yeah. That had been, what did we say, 42 years from when I first started, so I guess it was like leaving an old friend.
Yeah, I can understand that. You was close with your co-workers, so
Yeah.
I can understand it. What did you enjoy most about working at RCA?
That I enjoy most. You see, I sort of like physics and whatnot in high school. And when I was in boot camp for the Navy, they said, you can go to a meeting in one of the mess halls at a certain time if you're interested in things like radios and this PA system I'm talking on.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be one of the best schools. So I did go to that, and they gave us kind of a test. And it's what they called the Radio Materiel School, which is brand new. That's where they trained the radar repairmen. We call them electronic technicians, I guess. So I did go to the Navy School for electronic technicians, which is very good. 10 months of training, whereas almost every other school was either 3 months or 4 months. So it was a very good school. And it got me interested in electronics and qualified. So that's why, after I was discharged, I went to college on the GI Bill of Rights, which is another good thing. Let's thank Franklin Delano Roosevelt for that. And I wish Obama, I should go into that. We've got another depression like 1928 right now, and we needed a guy like Obama, like Franklin Delano Roosevelt to be president, and that's what I thought we were going to get with Barack Obama. We didn't. Let's stop there and get away from politics. What was I talking about?
What did you enjoy most?
What I enjoy most at RCA?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay, I was going through how I got trained in electronics, and because of that, I got the job. Because of the Navy and Franklin Roosevelt getting GI Bill of Rights, I became an electrical engineer, and that put me in good stead to get a job with a good company, which RCA was. So what I like most?
Yeah.
Well, I like the kind of work we're doing. You know, we were pushing the state of the art, particularly when we were doing things that went on the space shuttle. And I had the military experience, so it was good for things. Remember, back in World War II, every Navy radio receiver was built by RCA, except some of the really high frequency stuff. And so I knew of RCA equipment being good when I was a Navy technician. And I got up as high as first class before the war ended. And so when I saw a job available with RCA, you know, I hopped on it. And of course I needed a job. I was in the biggest class of the GI Bill in 1950 when I graduated with an electrical engineering degree. Biggest class ever. I went to the University of Minnesota. Biggest class ever of electrical engineers, 300 of us. This was in the spring of 1950, just before the Korean War started. And nobody could get, out of the 302 got jobs in Minnesota. So that means I had to leave my home state, Minnesota, to get a job if I wanted to work in it. So that's why I was looking elsewhere. It was tough getting work, just about like now, for somebody to come on to college. But like I say, just about that time the Korean War started and the military munitions and other material started again, so things started booming by the middle of 1950. So that was about the time when, actually I think the war started around March and I graduated in June. And then by about September or so, they started advertising for people, engineers, and military equipment. Since I had background in military, you know, I had a good job, good chance of getting a job late in 1950, which I did. And luckily it was with RCA. I think it was a good company, and I enjoyed working for them.
So you're saying that there wasn't really a big moment you enjoyed, you just enjoyed RCA overall?
Any big moment? Okay, think of anyone. No?
So RCA overall was...
Yeah, I like working at RCA. Thinking back, I can't think of what I'd rather do.
Well, let's stay into this thing again.
Oh, that was painless.